Welcome in, folks, to another episode of What's Bruin here on 6342 Productions. I am your host, Chris Nozick, joined as I am every episode by the one, the only bomb dropper himself, Dominic Tiano. Dom, I know we just did a show yesterday, and I want to shout out McKeen's Hockey and Josh and thank him again for coming on. But, Dom, how is the start of your week been? We have a ton of Bruin stuff to talk about.
I'm doing great, Pickles, and I'm so excited for tonight's episode because there's a lot of bombs that got dropped yesterday and today.
So much. I'm super excited, and you know what? Mike is so excited. He posted this question or this statement before the show started, where he said, "I wonder if Swayman, the hard line goes back to last year's arbitration because he seems fixed on that issue via the few comments that he's made." And then he says, I would think his agent should have had him more prepared for that process, which is a tangent that you went on a couple weeks ago on the show that has made me sometimes wonder how well his representation is doing for him. But clearly he doesn't have a problem with it. So we already got Matrix jumping in, ready to rumble. Matrix points out Swayman elected for the arbitration, not the Bruins. We will dive into that. Yes, Matrix, Dom has decided to call me Pickles, a new nickname every once in a while. But you know what? It's Dom. I'm not complaining. There's a lot worse that he could call me. We got Bear Force 1 in the chat already. So Kevin jumping in, what's up? I know a couple of you guys were here last night for that interview with Josh, so I want to thank you all for tuning in as well. We weren't ignoring the questions. We really wanted to get through that list. 15 names can get quite in-depth if we start getting off track and all that stuff. But it was a great show. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't watched it, you can tune in back on YouTube. It's still there, or the pod. Dom, you mentioned it. Lots of bombs between yesterday's show and today. Where do you want to start? We got training camp. We got Don Sweeney in the press conference today. We got Swayman.
I think we should start with the bomb from Cam Neely. By the way, those of you on YouTube, there's a poll question there on whether Cam Neely should shave or not. So if you're on YouTube, please vote. But Chris, why don't we just play the clip from Cam Neely?
Absolutely. We got this one here from earlier today.
When he got the job was, being a former player, I'm not a big fan of low ball, high ball, figure it out somewhere in the middle. It's like, okay, get the right comps, get the right comp group, put the right offer on the table. And I think, Don's past has shown that he can get deals done. This is one that's just been a little trickier, that's all. I mean, I strongly believe that Jeremy wants to play here. I've asked him flat out, do you want to play here? And he does. I believe that they'll get a deal done. It's unfortunate it's not done today.
Kevin Dupont again, Boston Globe. My question's for Jim, but before that, since you say you're a surprise, Cam, can you share any of the specifics here, be it what his ask is in terms of dollars or term?
Well, I don't want to get into the weeds with what his ask is, but I know that I have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now.
And I'll dovetail to that. There's been stories around saying he's looking to reset the goalie market. Do you feel that's the case?
I do, yeah. I do.
In context to what?
Well, just what his ask is and what we believe his comp group is are two different things.
All right. Well, we have now all heard the comments. Dom, I will let you get us started. What was your reaction to that? And what were your biggest takeaways from the Swayman part of the half hour, roughly, press conference from earlier?
I have a lot of different takeaways on it. Number one, we can start with the rumors that we've heard all summer. I've gotten into arguments with fans. I've even argued with you on the show about it. Don't bring up rumors to me because I don't want to waste my time discussing rumors. And when Neely pointed out, and this has been something that goes back to when Don Sweeney was hired. He doesn't like this low ball, high ball kind of offers and then meet in the middle. Figure out what your comps are and make a fair and equitable offer off the bat. And that's what you work from. So when we heard rumors that Swayman was being offered $6.25 million, I called bullshit at the time, and I didn't even want to discuss it. That's my first takeaway. The Bruins have not lowballed them. They've come in with what they think is a fair offer, and as Sweeney added later on, we don't have the clip for that they're working to bridge the gap. The second thing, my takeaway was when Neely admitted that Swayman is trying to reset the goalie market. What is resetting the goalie market? Well, it's more than $8 million. It's probably less than the 10.5 that Carey Price signed for. So that tells me that their gap might be $1 million to $1.5 million apart. And it's now just bridging the gap. Those are my two biggest takeaways. But I see a confidence in them that a deal will eventually get done. And that's my biggest takeaways from it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I think one of the other parts that people also need to take a breath and realize too is one of the biggest things that wasn't asked about. And even if they did ask about it, we know the canned answer is going to be, well, we're not going to get into the discussions, and that'll be between Don Sweeney and Louis Gross and whatever. But we also don't know how much guaranteed signing bonus money for lockout protection is coming into play, the structure of the contract. We know that he's not eligible for no movement clause for a couple years into the deal. You would think it's nice and easy to say, okay, we'll bend and give it to him once he's eligible for it. But again, that doesn't include expansion protection necessarily, lockout protection, salary versus signing bonus. You've mentioned it before on the show. David Pastrnak, a guy who's getting $11.5 million, has what, $3 million in guaranteed money in a lockout, maybe $4 million?
I think it's $3.5 million.
So if Swayman is asking for his entire year's salary guaranteed, then that's obviously not something the Boston Bruins have set a precedent to do. They haven't,
not more. He could be asking for more than his salary in lockout. Draisaitl got $14 million in lockout protection.
Right, and granted, that's an Edmonton issue. That's a precedent that they've set. Boston does not want to set that precedent. They have not set that precedent. And if David Pasternak's not getting that kind of lockout protection, what has Jeremy Swayman done to earn that kind of lockout protection? But David Pasternak's at least on path and already in some top 10 franchise scoring categories already. And he's going to blow some of them away if he keeps up his pace. So at least he's done something.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into a contract negotiation that most fans aren't aware of. Lockout protection's probably up there in the top 2 or 3 things. There's just so many things. We don't know whether the Bruins are offering something like the Canes did with was it Jarvis? The
deferred money.
Deferred money. We don't know what it's like. What I do have is a lot of faith in Evan Gold to get it figured out. This is not just a Don Sweeney thing.
There was also a comment, I don't know how many people caught it, but there was a comment that Charlie Jacobs made about how they spend to the cap, they budget to spend to the cap, and then that Cam and Don have gotten them to budge a little bit on that because of injuries and stuff like that, that they go a little bit above that, and that a minimum player salary could be the difference in basically the cap working and the cap not working.
No, I think you misunderstood what Charlie was saying. What Charlie was saying is that they convinced him to spend less than the cap to leave room for potential injuries.
Okay.
What they don't want to do is go into LTIR. They don't want to do that.
Go back and re-listen. Admittedly, I heard that part while I was at work and things were chaotic all day at work. So I definitely may have misinterpreted that. But there was a part of me that just kind of was like, he's commenting on the cap for some reason. Like, clearly they've had these conversations. So Matrix is pointing out, though, it was nice to see management call out the Swayman camp. It needed to be done. Louis Grace is pulling the Nylander bullshit again. I mean, that's how Louis Gross is as an agent. And as was pointed out earlier, Mike, as he said, the arbitration situation, I wonder how well Louis Gross prepared Swayman for that situation.
I don't think he prepared himself at all, but the blame doesn't fall entirely on him. Jeremy Swayman should know himself, being a hockey player. There's
Absolutely
been countless stories of players being ripped in arbitration.
He should have been prepared, but
Yeah.
if the onus falls more on the agent to have him properly prepared, as you had said. I
will say this about Gross. If I was a hockey player, a professional hockey player, Louis Gross is exactly the type of agent I would want to have. Not necessarily Louis Gross, but that's what I want my agent to do for me.
It's why you hire an agent in the first place.
It's why you pay him 5% of your salary.
Because he's the one who's supposed to be getting the bullshit. He's the one who everybody should be blaming when this deal's not done. Like, Swayman's job is to go out when he has a contract and stop pucks. That's his job.
Yep.
Right now, he doesn't have a job to do that. So he's going to keep himself in the best shape that he can. I haven't heard of him skating anywhere. I'm sure that's,
he probably is. He probably is.
Michael says it's nice to see a no-nonsense Neely standing up for his team and his organization. I think part of it, too, because the Bruin side until now hasn't said anything. And no one from the Swayman side, other than Swayman appearing on a couple podcasts and being very vague about it, they haven't really said much of anything either. So everything that's out there has just been rumors, thrown out there. I really don't think there's a lot of substance to it other than the things that we now know for sure. Looking to reset the goalie market. Okay, that's still a very vague statement and not difficult to disprove either. Craig asks, is there any chance that Sway didn't know that the offer was 8?
No, if he doesn't know, then he should fire his agent.
Absolutely.
If he doesn't, this isn't the days of Alan Eagleson. If Swayman doesn't know, he should fire his agent right now, and the NHLPA should take Gross's license to practice away.
Absolutely. I saw a couple people suggest that, and I was just like, that's the most asinine thing. We're in 2024. There's just too much. There's too much ability to make sure the client knows. And it's a gross misconduct for the client not to know. Because if he's okay with that deal, maybe Swayman is sitting here at this point, speculation, saying, I like that deal. See if we can do better. Let's see what happens if we keep this going a little bit longer. Maybe Swayman has his own date where he goes, all right, if it's not done by this date, I'm just going to tell Louis to take the deal that we can get, and I can start playing hockey again.
3 weeks from today, when Swayman misses his first paycheck.
Yep.
No, sorry, it's not 3. It's 15 days from today. So October 15th will be their first paycheck. When he misses that, things may change.
that's kind of the thought and that's where when people are like, oh, opening day is a deadline. Like, you can come up with any arbitrary date and say, oh, it's a deadline for something, for some reason. The deadline is December 1st. That's why Don Sweeney threw that out there when he did, because that is the deadline. Now, there's a
If
lot
you
of
think players hate escrow and having money taken off their paycheck for escrow, wait till they don't get a paycheck.
yeah. And they still have to pay their players association fees. They still have to pay certain things, whether they're getting the paycheck or not, because they're still an active hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
So wait till that money starts going out, and then maybe the pressure starts to be there. Matrix even says, I'll be goddamned if I'm going to miss a paycheck. Exactly.
It doesn't mean it ends then, but that's where Swayman may start putting pressure on his agent.
Yeah, it's a chink in the armor for him for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's when he personally will start to feel it. So, and maybe he's prepared for that. We just don't know. With that, though, I've seen a lot of people saying, well, if he holds out, then trade him. He's being greedy, trade him, so on and so forth. Michael says that first paycheck would be more than I make in a decade for a lot of people. A lot of people. Leonardo on Twitter says, make him sit for 2 years, set an example. So that's a far cry from what I was getting into, where people say, trade him. Now, you and I had this conversation. I'm with you. I don't think the Bruins have a trade thought at all brewing in their head. There's no reason and there's no logic behind it.
No.
Because trading him is arguably the dumbest thing they could do right now from an organizational standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think that the thought has even crossed their minds. I believe Sweeney when he says and I'm disappointed he didn't mention Evan Gold, because Evan Gold is in this 1,000%. He's the lawyer. He's the contract negotiator. He's the one who comes up with the comps. He's the one who came up with the comps last year when they went to arbitration. That all falls on Evan Gold. But when Sweeney says that he's hard at work and will work hard to get a deal done, I believe them.
Oh, I do too. Now, that being said, I also think that there's a point for them that they know they have, everyone wants to talk about leverage. The last little bit of leverage, because he's an RFA, lies with the team. That's the whole point of restricted free agency. So the ultimate point comes down to December 1. If he does not sign, he does not play. And you still maintain his rights. He is still a restricted free agent going into next year. And you basically have a whole another year to keep talking through this shit.
I don't think it'll come to that.
I don't think so.
The only way they're going to trade him is if Swayman says, I'm not signing with you, trade me.
Unless he demands a trade, he's not getting moved.
No.
And the reason for that, as you had pointed out too, is based off of what we already know, the contract's going to be over $8 million. So one, what team is willing to blindly sign him let's say they can get the 8th year because they trade for him, but what team is going to blindly sign him 8 for $8.5, $9.5 million?
I don't know. I don't want to get into hypotheticals.
But then in the trade scenario, that deal is worth a minimum of 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, we've discussed that. I don't want to get into that because they're not actively shopping them. Unless Swayman demands a trade, it's pointless to discuss trades. When he demands one, we'll do a show specifically on that because a trade ain't going to happen overnight. We'll have a week to discuss it.
We'll have a while. Yeah, we'll definitely.
I'm not discussing hypotheticals tonight.
Matrix points out there's really not even a team that has the assets or players to make a trade for Swayman happen. Again, we'll get into that if it ever happened. Gooch on X says lower the contract offer by $100K a day if Swayman keeps holding out.
Not going to happen. The Bruins are going to negotiate in good faith, which has always been their style. If it is, let's say it's an 8 times $8 million dollar deal. So starting October 8th, that's the season opener, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Every day, every day Jeremy Swayman sits out. This is every day. Costs him $41,666.67.
You don't have to lower the contract. He's throwing that money already away.
He's throwing that money away.
And again, the good faith, discussion part comes into play.
Unfortunately, what it does do is if it's more than a 1-year contract, that means the cap hit to the Bruins is going to be higher than $8 million that first year, just the way the cap is calculated.
Yeah, that's a detail that they do have to worry about. So we'll see where that goes. Craig also says I can't see Sway holding out much longer, as there is more that the contract is on the line with the chance to play for Team USA this coming winter. There's that. There's the money part. He's not getting paid, and just at some point he's gonna probably come to the thought, once players miss regular season games and they miss paychecks, their thought process tends to change.
Exactly.
Gooch also says 8x8 is more than enough. No way he's being this overly greedy about it. Well, it was confirmed that he basically is, or at least his agent is. So they're asking for more. Now, the question, I guess, is how much did the Bruins start with, and how much do they feel they've conceded to get to 8x8? Bear Forest 1 says, I can't see the Bruins going higher than 8x8. The Swayman camp will have to be the ones to budge.
Well, they're both going to have to budge. It's the way it works.
Yeah, and again, we don't know where Lewis Gross and Swayman are coming from as far as what their starting point is. If it's closer to 10, then it's a bigger gap than if they're starting at 9 and they're trying to find the middle ground. And as we saw in the clip from Neely, the reason why they picked Don Sweeney is because he goes with comps. He goes into the negotiation with a reasonable offer already. And then it's, as Sweeney added on, it's finding the gap. It's bridging it together from where you are at, where what you think is reasonable to what they think is reasonable.
Right. They've already offered him more than UC Saros is getting.
Yeah, that's confirmed. So let's see. Michael also adds, now players and teammates know some of the details. I'm sure some of them
doesn't affect anything,
but it doesn't matter. I guess the bigger question is can this team carry on without him? And that brings us to, we've got a couple preseason games under our belt. We've got some cuts that were made. Korpisalo has got his first full game under his belt, and Bussy's got some time, and DiPietro's got some time under their belt. So, we know right now Sweeney is named Korpisalo, not Sweeney, but Montgomery is named Korpisalo the game 1 starter. That came out today as well. Let's see. Michael Connor says, wonder if Swayman's agent make a public statement soon after the Neely comments. I will say I was on Twitter before we came on the show, and supposedly, again, it's that same rumor mill podcast as before. Someone said that Swayman's agent might be making a statement, but you never really know.
I'd be surprised if it does.
I don't think,
because Gross doesn't operate that way either.
Yeah, and if anything, the statement would probably be something along lines of, we are in constant communication with the Boston Bruins, and we're trying to make a deal work. Swayman wants to be a Boston Bruin, and we're going to look to continue to find common ground.
Now, I will say this, that as of right now, with the cuts that the Bruins made and what we project the roster to be like, opening night that the Bruins have $10,211,666 in cap space, and they would need either a 13th forward or a 13th and 14th forward or an 8th defenseman out of that. So out of that has to come Swayman's salary plus an 8th defenseman or a 13th and 14th forward if they chose to carry 23-man roster.
Right. Now, they may choose to just go to the 22-man roster, leave a little bit of cap space in there to accrue for...
Yeah, I'm just giving the numbers out. There's lots of things they can do.
Absolutely. And real quick before we turn to the cuts, Matrix points out Swayman would be the 5th highest paid goalie at 8x8, which by definition would not be resetting the market, as Dom pointed out. So Michael asks, does Gross represent any other Bruin?
Bruins? No, I do not believe so. I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
I don't think so either. Let's see. He does not. The team with the most Louis Gross clients is the St. Louis Blues. Oh, and by the way, one of those St. Louis Blues is Torrey Krug.
Yeah, Torrey Krug was...
So there's that factor as well. So Gucci, hopefully that also answers this question for you. He says, was Louis Gross always this harsh and notorious for his negotiation tactics?
Yes.
Based on how it went down with Torrey Krug, that's a yes.
And Nylander. He did it with Nylander.
Says that Sway's agent put out a statement. Tyler, if you could send that to me. I got my phone right here. I know Tyler can text it to me, so I will love to pull that up. Let me see here. Actually, it looks like he sent it to me here from Louis Gross. Normally, I do not release statements or discuss negotiations through the media. However, in this case, I feel I need to defend my client. At today's press conference, $64 million was referenced. This was the first time that number was discussed in our negotiations. Prior to the press conference, no offer was made reaching that level. We are extremely disappointed. This was not fair to Jeremy. We will take a few days to discuss where we go from here. End quote.
Interesting.
So, thank you, Tyler. That's a very interesting reaction there. Where does that take your thought process? We like to do this. We do this live for a reason. Actually,
Someone's lying.
I will say this. Big Bad Bruin Joe says, oof, not good. And Nick Mel jumps in from the Something's Bruin pod over on the over on Primetime Prods. Check those guys out. It says, that's a tough statement to read as a Bruins fan. Leonardo says, sounds to me like they're going to take it. So I was going to say, if anything, it might be a good thing that he dropped that bomb, because that might now be saying, hey, we are willing to reach your number. Maybe it was a way of saying, hey, you've got to fucking call us back. Like, there was a rumor that Don Sweeney wasn't returning calls for 3 weeks. He came out hard against that. And it's not in his character. So I would wholeheartedly agree with the fact that he probably was not ignoring his calls. Now, maybe Gross has been busy. Maybe it hasn't been an intentional unreturn of phone calls, but maybe that's the kind of message they were trying to send with it. We don't know the details of this conversation. We never will. But, is it rough to see it start to come out in the media?
No. To me, it's a good thing that it's in the media.
Yeah. I don't hate it. If Jeremy Swayman truly wants to be a Bruin, he will have no problem with any of this getting out there.
I would tend to think that once the press conference ended, because it goes totally against everything that Don Sweeney has said and how Sweeney negotiates, that he doesn't say to Cam, you shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. Something is going to rattle, whether it's within the Bruins. Maybe it's within the Bruins front office. Maybe Don Sweeney was being cheaper than Cam Neely thought he was being, and maybe they somehow got off page on this. I don't know. Matrix says, I bet this deal gets done before Wednesday. I don't know about that.
No.
I don't know. Yeah, Rob, that's the statement we're talking about, unless there was another one. But yeah, no, I think if anything, this coming to light, the fact that Louis Gross even acknowledged, like, I don't comment on these things, but I'm going to have to in this situation, tells you things aren't status quo as any other negotiation. So we'll just have to continue to see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's all we can do.
Here's why because Tyler had asked me earlier, am I still not worried? When I say I'm not worried about it, I still have the confidence that a deal is going to get done, because at the end of the day, the only option for Jeremy Swayman is to not play the game that he loves to play in hockey and not earn a quality paycheck and turn down a large sum of money to play that game. At the end of the day, if there's no contract that gets done, Louis Gross doesn't get paid either. So it's in that side's best interest to get a deal done at some point. Now, does that mean it's going to happen tomorrow or by Wednesday? No, it's not mean that. Does it mean we could be in this for another 6 months to a year because it doesn't get done by December 1st? It's a possibility. I don't think so, though. I'm trying to be more realistic than that. But I've been saying for months since they brought in Jonas Korpisalo, I don't hate him going into the season as the starter, because I think there's a lot more to his game than Bruins fans have been giving him credit for. And I think
I have to correct you on something that you said.
Okay.
About Louis Gross not getting paid. He will still get paid. He gets paid on the value of the contract.
But if there is no contract,
if Swayman signs at the deadline on December 1st for 8 times 8, Louis Gross will be paid on that $64 million. Jeremy Swayman won't.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is Louis Gross gets no checks at all if no deal gets done at all.
Right. But
I'm saying
that's not happening either.
That's the point. I'm with you on that, though. I get it. Let's see. It could get done during the first week of the season. That's a realistic time frame, potentially. Kevin adds, there's no need to worry. Anyways, it's not your job or your negotiation. It's just hockey.
It's exactly.
That's exactly. None of it's my money.
It's like I see people that they're like ready to jump off a bridge. I go, man, if that's the least of your worries in life,
right?
I want to switch places with you.
I would too. I would be jumping at that as well. So with that though, I know we had one other clip from. Oh no, that was for the topic we're about to get into here. I'm going to pull this up. The Bruins released another. We'll call it their transaction statement on Sunday, where Don Sweeney announced that the following roster transactions were taking place. Mark McLaughlin had been placed on waivers for the purpose of assignment to Providence. And then also reporting to Providence training camp, Joey Abadi, Drew Bavaro, Ryan Bischel, Frederick Brunet, Michael Callahan, Riley Duran, Jackson Edward, John Farinacci, Brett Harrison, Trevor Kuntar, Fabian Liesel, Nolan Meyer, Ryan Mast, Adam Matura, Georgi Merkulov, Mason Millman, Jackson Nelson. And then Kasper Kaskasuo has been released from his professional tryout and will also report to Providence as well.
Leave the list up for a minute.
I will. I just wanted to get to Matrix's comment here. Twitter world has exploded with the gross statement. So I will pull that list back up. We will dive into that I will fish a little through Twitter to see if there's anything worth bringing up on that.
I don't. The last thing I want to do is read Twitter comments.
Fair.
We're moving on from Swayman. I'm not surprised about Mark McLaughlin. I tweeted as much before he was placed on waivers. I will tell you, there's two names that really caught me by surprise. Well, one that really, really caught me by surprise, and I even said as much before the cuts were announced that I would give him 2 of the last 3 games is Fabian Lysell. Merkulov surprised me a little bit, but not as much. But this isn't the be-all, end-all. And let's play the clip from Donnie Sweeney right now, Chris.
Bridget Prude, WEI. This one's for Don and Coach, if you want to give your perspective as well. What made yesterday the right day to cut the players that were cut, including Fabian Lysell, and what would someone like Lysell had to have done to stay a little bit longer in camp?
So our decision, again, we mapped out sort of camp as a whole, in targeting, potential lineups early in camp, later in camp. Obviously injuries have dictated a little bit of availability for certain players. Player performance has also dictated a little bit of that. We made a pretty conscious effort right around this time to hone in on some quality practices with a target-specific lineup based on who was playing well, and with a clear intention that whether it's Fabian or other players that I referenced, they'll be back to play. That might be as early as Thursday or Saturday. So the evaluation is going to continue. Specifically, and I don't want to go back and re-talk about his good things, bad things. He's got a lot of talent, and we're trying to get him to understand a little bit more of the team-based game and apply that. Whether that's in practice with Providence, today and tomorrow, and then bringing it back when he does get another opportunity here, that's what you're hoping for. And all young players, that's what you're hoping for. There's very few ready-made players. This is a league that chews them up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think when we look at, Don and I look at training camp together, we analyze a couple of things. And starting yesterday, was 10 days until game 1. We had 4 practices left. We had 3 games, 2 days off. So when you look at the way the schedule lays out, getting down to a smaller number where you can go one group where you're getting most of your group that's going to be with you to start the year. The intensity and execution and effort, everything comes up. And we need those in those last 4 practices along with the games to be able to have our team ready for game 1. And that's why we kind of targeted yesterday as the day where we kind of think we're going to do that. We can pivot at any time from that.
There we go. All right. With that pulled off, I will let you take us where you want to go with these. I do want to point out the part where he made it clear, though, that these players being sent down to Providence can be back up as early as Thursday for a game. Like, it's not the end of the world that they've been sent down. I think a lot of it has to do with they want to see how some of these players, like Fabian Lysell, like Georgi Merkulov, how do they react to being sent down at this stage?
Look, I don't care what level of hockey you're at. What the Bruins have done is no different than any other hockey team has done. They have a date that they're going to make their cuts. They do it. They want a smaller group. You look at the Calgary Flames on Friday, still had 6 goaltenders, 16 defensemen, and 31 forwards at camp. You can't run a training camp like that. You need to reduce it at some point. And the Bruins had a firm date, like just about every other organization does. what we have seen through history is just because they're sent down doesn't mean that they can't come up and play another exhibition game or two, which is why I didn't lose my cool on Twitter like 90% of the fan base that Lysell was sent down.
I think he's one of the they're particularly
Yeah.
looking at, and we want to give him another look. One, we want to
Yeah.
see how he takes handling getting sent
Yeah.
down, and two,
No, they don't want to see how he handles being sent down, Chris. That's not an issue. He needs to be on the ice. Okay? And in Providence, he's going to get more one-on-one coaching. This is what we need to see from you. Whether it's from Adam McQuaid, whether it's from one of the skills coaches, whether it's one of the skating coaches, whether it's Ryan Mouginel, whoever it is, he's going to get more coaching down there in these 2 days than he would get in Boston, because in Boston, they're concerned about getting the team ready for opening night. They don't have time to hold his hand.
mm-hmm.
So how he reacts has got nothing to do with it. It's how he receives what he's being told now by coaches, that if he's in Thursday or he's in Saturday, they see it on the ice. That's what it's all about. If we go back a couple of months ago, I said on this very show, Fabian Lysell needs to grab it by the horns from day one and show that he wants it, like Mason Lohrei did, or like Matthew Poitras did, and he didn't show it. He got better.
absolutely got
Fabian Lysell is known for being a slow starter. He got better, but he's not there yet. He's not. And he's got 2 days to listen to what the coaches in Providence are telling him and to bring it back to Boston and prove that he gets it.
I agree with that 100%. I that's a much better way of wording what I meant when I was saying how he responds. Like everything that you said, that is really the crux of what my intentions were, and you just worded it way better. So we're on the same page for that. I would expect Fabian Lysell probably to be in on Saturday's game more so than Thursday's game, simply because I'm sure they probably want to give him the full week with the coaches to get more work in. I know a lot of people were also kind of up in arms about Georgi Merkulov, but was there anything?
No, it's not there. Georgi Merkulov, again, I said it on this show, he's not there for two right wing. He was never challenging for that. He had to beat out Matthew Poitras.
Oh, no, I meant in general. Did you see anything from Merkulov
No.
that said he'd be on the NHL roster?
No, but he had to beat out Matthew Poitras, and it never happened. That's why he's in Providence.
I would agree with that. I think the fact that they started Matthew Poitras in place of Elias Lindholm for that one game, I think that tells you they want to keep him at center as much as possible. We haven't had as much of a look of Morgan Geekie at that right wing position, but I think we will see it. And I think that might be the way they're leaning to go with that second line, keeping Poitras at center on the third line next to Frederick on the left. But we're going to have to see how they come out in their next game with the lineup. I like what I've seen from the goaltenders in general. I think Bussy has shown a little bit of improvement from one outing to the next, but he still doesn't seem to be fully ready, at least in a confidence standpoint right now. I will be very interested to see. Obviously, Ryan Bischel got sent down, but of those three, who's the first goalie to get sent down to Providence is the big question, and I think that's a final day cut. To be honest with you,
If at all.
If at all. Yeah, no, absolutely. They could keep all three.
They could keep all three until Swayman signs. You know, the ball is in Lysel's court right now. What he did today on the ice, what he does tomorrow on the ice, what he does Wednesday on the ice, and if he gets the game Thursday and Saturday, he better show improvement. It's all up to him. Is it the end of the world? No, he's still 21 years of age.
Yeah, no, there should be no talk of him being a bust yet.
Yeah,
He's still only one. It's okay for him to not be there just yet.
You know, David's watched him since he arrived in Vancouver with the Giants. Well, David, I watched him when he was in the J20 National in Sweden, and I watched him for 3 games in the Swedish Hockey League. So my time with him goes a little before 4 years, and yeah, he's been a slow starter. If you know, I've harped on this too many times, and people get angry at me for saying it because other people take it and run with it. But he should have stuck around in Boston, trained in Boston, skated with NHL guys in the off season, and be ready to go the first day of captain's practices. And he didn't.
Yeah.
And you know, it is what it is.
I was
What did it?
He didn't. I mean, obviously, you know, it's okay for him to go home a little bit, but the fact that he didn't come back to Boston, train with some pros, like I was disappointed to see that little difference. I think that might have really helped prepare him for the camp this year.
Yeah, I think so too. Would have been enough of a difference? We'll never know.
No, well,
we'll never know.
Kevin jumps in and says, I don't think either player has done enough to make the roster out of camp, and that's that. Could they get there? Sure, but in my opinion, it's just not there yet. That's the facts. It isn't there yet.
But the problem is, Kevin, bear with me on this one. If you go back to Lysel's last game, we saw it offensively and we saw it defensively at different times throughout the game. So is it there? Yes, it is. He's just got to get it from there to his hands and to his feet. He knows how to do it.
Yeah.
He knows how to do it because I've seen him do it. He's just not doing it to take, I can't remember whether it was Sweeney or Montgomery say it. We need to see it consistently. And that's the issue.
Yeah. The consistency part. And I think some of that, through no fault of his own, has been through injuries. You know, it seems like every once in a while he'll start to get ramped up. Like even last year, they would have called him up at the end of the season. He would have seen NHL games, which would have helped by far. That would have helped his development if he had gotten those games, but he got hurt. It is what it is. So
David's got a really good question.
I'm going to pull that one up now. He says, during all the time you followed, have you ever thought he would fit in as a Bruin in the Bruins structure?
No. If I were to answer honestly, I would have to say no. But having watched David Pastrnak as a junior, I would have said no about him at the time as well. So
that would be my question. What would you have said about Pastrnak? Because he was also more that skill, skill.
Yeah, it's hard to project whether a player will pick up a system. David Pastrnak did. Now we have to see if Fabian Lysell can do it. I'd hate to give up on the kid because, as everybody alludes to, he is very, very highly skilled, and that doesn't come naturally to a lot of players. It's about doing what David Pastrnak did and learning to become a Bruin.
Yeah, and that's the part that can be taught. It is.
Well, yes and no. Like,
not everybody.
You can teach the system, and everybody will get it. It's whether they want to or not. It's the will and the determination and the willingness to put in the work. And you've got to have a heart, which is, Matthew Poitras is another one. When they drafted him, I was okay. I like the kid. I know he's got skill, but he's not a Bruin. But what is helping him is his heart. Put Matthew Poitras's heart in Fabian Lysell, and he'd be a 3-year pro with 20 to 30 goals in the NHL by now.
Yeah, right. Trevor Kuntar, even that kid's engine has no bounds. I would, John Farinacci came out on fire with the same kind of desire in there. It's the kind of fire that you wish to hell someone like Brett Harrison had, because then he wouldn't be worried about going into contact. But honestly, when I saw this list, I was more surprised by the fact that I forgot Mark McLaughlin had to clear waivers than anything. And
a lot of people were upset when they placed him on waivers, but it's the same thing I caution against when a player breaks into the NHL like Mark McLaughlin did and had 3 goals in 11 games or whatever it was, 14 games. I can't remember. I think it was 3 goals in 11 games. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's very good, considering he's coming straight out of the NCAA. But talk to me after the adrenaline wears off.
Right.
Because that's when you see what a player is made of. Because you can go 15 games on adrenaline and look good. But what happens when that adrenaline wears off? And it does wear off. So talk to me after that. I said over a year ago, don't sleep on Matthew Poitras making the roster out of camp. And he did.
That was 2 years ago now, Dom.
Or 2 years ago. What I never said to anybody publicly, because I take my own advice, is wait till the adrenaline wears off.
Right.
Right? And it did. And he maintained his game. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the scoring pace. Mark McLaughlin didn't.
Yeah, no, I just was more surprised that I forgot he was at a point in his career where he had to go through waivers.
No, but I'm saying people are upset that they placed him on waivers. But to me, he was one of my first cuts. I tweeted as such.
I haven't seen enough from him, and it's not a knock against who he is as a person or anything. I just haven't seen enough from him at the NHL level, and quite frankly, I have no lack of confidence to get him through either. I think he's a solid Providence Bruin right now. Now, maybe he never gets past the AHL. That's okay. He can have a good hockey career in the American Hockey League.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. He's still a pro hockey player. And having guys like that in the organization are extremely helpful. We've seen it year in and year out. It's like I said, none of these names made me sit there and go, oh my God, why did they cut him now? Like, I honestly expected, from what I've seen thus far, all of them at some point to see Providence. I barring 1 or 2 more games from Lysell where he really shined, I wasn't expecting him to make the roster based off of what we've seen so far.
No, and people wonder, like, why is Osterley still on the roster? Why is Brown still on the roster and guys like that? And I'll tell you why they're there. Because they have NHL experience and they know how to push the guys in practice. Like, Osterley will know how to push Parker Wotherspoon. He'll know how to push Andrew Peak. He'll know how to push Mason Lohrei. The same way that Brown can push John Beecher or Mark Kastelik. You know, Fabian Lysell doesn't know how to do that.
Right.
And that's why those guys with NHL experience are still there. It's not because they're going to be on the opening night roster. It's to make the guys that will be on the opening night roster better.
Absolutely. And what I will say, because Matrix, this is a sentiment that I've seen a lot of people take. He says, I say put Lysell on the main roster. He's either going to sink or swim. It's up to him. Here's the problem with that. There's two things with that. One, it's going to hold the whole team back if he's not ready, for one. For two, you have a coach right now who doesn't have a contract pass this year. That's not his mindset. His mindset is, I'm winning as many games as I can. I need the players who are going to be ready right now to help me do that. And if Fabian Lysell is not one of those guys, he's not on my team. That is the coach's mindset, period. That is the mindset of the organization from the top down. We want to win a Stanley Cup. If you're not ready to help us do that right now, your spot's in Providence. Period.
I will give you another reason, and probably more important, is they don't know when Jeremy Swayman will be under contract. It could be December 1st. They need to bank points because if you fall behind now, it's harder to make up the points later on. If you're banking points now, let everybody else chase you. And who's giving them the best chance to bank those points now?
It's not Lysell.
No.
As of right now, it's not Lysell. And oh, by the way, they come out with a fairly brutal schedule. Like,
It's brutal.
They open against Florida, and then it doesn't get any easier than that. Like, it's going to be, and it's not like they have a lot of time off either. They run a fairly every other day type schedule for a while. So it's going to be quite interesting. David asks, if Lysell was a North American player, would we continue to be giving him second looks?
Interesting question.
Based off of what I've seen, I would think so, simply because there have been flashes. We have seen the potential for the ceiling. But maybe you have a better, different insight into that. I may call it naive, but I would like to think the fact that he's, whether he's European or not, doesn't really matter. It's more or less, have we seen enough?
I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, how many looks did they give Curtis Hall? He was always at camp and always sent down. They kept him till the end of his contract before they let him go. I don't think being European has anything to do with it. I really don't.
I can't think of. There's nothing that stands out to me as an obvious reason why it would make a difference. In Matrix, that is what we are here for. And again, it wasn't a knock on you. I've seen a lot of people take that mindset, and it's just not a realistic mindset for the team or the coach to have. If the coach had just signed his contract and, last year was, a wild card qualification and they kind of just barely were lucky to get to the second round and that sort of thing. Okay. I guess you could take that more of a mindset of saying, okay, we're still building. Let's let him learn. But that's not where this team is at. And that's not their mindset. So, and a lot of people have clearly, not taken that into account per, some of what they're going off of. So were there any other names, Dom, on this list? And I'll pull it back up. That really stood out to you, positive or negative, really?
Honestly, I would have liked Trevor Kuntar to get another look. But I can understand why they sent him down. He was going to be in Providence anyway, so he may as well be in Providence from day one of training camp. You know, Jackson Edward, no, sorry, Brett Harrison. Uh, I think he's had a good camp. Starting to see the improvements in where I've been saying for a couple of years they needed to be. Um, so he should have gone to Providence right away for the opening of camp and begin to work on what needs to be a very, very good season for him. So um, I'm not surprised at any of the other moves. I'm not.
Is there anyone who's still with the big club that you are more surprised wasn't cut?
No, I mean they're there for the reasons that I said earlier. Uh, most of them have NHL experience, um, and they're there to push the players that will be on the opening night roster. And by push me, I don't mean challenge for a spot uh, or to take their spot on the roster. By push, I mean when they get into scrums or they get into scrimmages and stuff, uh, know how to play against NHL players. And that's what I mean by pushing them, is making the guys they're scrimmaging against or battling against work even harder.
Yeah, and that's something that, as much as Bruin fans are baffled by a Patrick Brown, that's something he's good at.
Yeah.
He might not be a consistent NHL player, but he's a fringe guy at worst. And so he
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If they're doing line rushes, or let's say they're doing a mini scrimmage, right? Who's going to push David Pasternak to be his best? Is it going to be Patrick Brown or is it going to be Fabian Lysell?
Patrick Brown by a mile.
Yeah. Is it going to be Riley Tufte or is it going to be Fabian Lysell?
Tufte by a mile, especially by what from him.
Is it going
maybe
to
by
be
half.
Cole Koepke or is it going to be Georgi Merkulov?
Koepke,
Right.
he's shown,
And that's why they're still there. That's
Yeah.
why they're still at camp.
Yeah, and I will say I don't expect, although he could if. Do you see them possibly going with 12 forwards, 8D, and two goaltenders?
No, they'll need, especially since they're opening on the road, they need a 13th forward.
I would agree with that.
If somebody comes down with the flu or something, or steps off the edge of the curb and breaks an ankle and can't play, they need a 13th forward.
Yeah, that would be especially because they're starting on the road. I would expect 13, 7, and maybe 2. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they go 3.
I wouldn't either.
I mean, Korpisalo's the guy to start. Have you seen enough from Brandon Bussi to declare him the clear number 2? Because I see a lot of people sitting here completely, I almost want to say disregarding DiPietro, but I've liked what I've seen from him almost a little more than what I've seen from Bussi. I feel like Bussi is giving up more in the rebound department. I think
it's what the coaching staff thinks. And we already know that Bussi is starting tomorrow night and Korpisalo is starting Thursday night. We know that. So Cassidy announced that yesterday. Montgomery announced that yesterday. So we know what the coaching staff thinks. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you and I think.
No, I do think they could carry all 3 just so that they don't lose, DiPietro or Bussi on waivers. But
like I said, until Swayman sides, I can see all 3.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big thing. Michael jumps in, says, I like Jackson Edward last game. Played simple hockey, should have a big year of development in Providence. Coach's work with him is obvious and impactful. Absolutely. Jackson Edwards is one of the players that I'm most looking forward to watching in Providence from game one to the end of the season, simply because I'm excited to see how much his game improves. Now, does that mean he's going to be ready for the NHL next season? No, I don't think so. But I think this year is going to be a year where you can see him go from that player he was with the London Knights in juniors to being to being professional, at least AHL professional.
I will say this about Jackson Edward. And I can't remember if I brought it up on last night's show with Josh or whether it was the last show we did here on What's Bruin, but the game against Philadelphia, you could tell anytime that Jackson Edward released the puck, the Flyers were taking shots at him. They were hitting him like that split second late. Once the puck was off his stick, they were trying to get him to lose his temper because he can be a hothead. And credit to him, he didn't. He was physical when he had to be, but he kept his cool. And that's one thing even Adam McQuaid has talked about, even Jim Montgomery, about, picking his spots. In Providence, he's going to get a lot of coaching from Adam McQuaid. He's an Adam McQuaid type player. And, there's not much better than Adam McQuaid for him to learn from. So, like Chris said, I too am curious to see how he does in the American Hockey League. I've already watched him for 2 years in junior, so I'm curious to see what his next step looks like.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hell of a year for Providence, dude. They're gonna have a great team down there. Considering the fact that it is a developmental league, I think they're going to be a team to watch down there. And other teams are going to start making their cuts too. So pretty soon, this regular season will be upon us. So, Dom, I will give you a quick update right now. We have, I want to say, if you're watching on YouTube right now, we have over 500 people watching. If you are one of the ones on YouTube, please go answer Dom's poll question of the night. He wants to know, yes or no, should Cam Neely? Right now, we are at 60% of people saying no.
Wow.
So, but I want to get a few more votes in there. We've only got 20 or 30 votes. So if you haven't done it, please go vote. While you're there, just hit the little heart button and like the show. Share it, something while you're there, just to help us get into a few more people's feeds there as they log on and check out YouTube. Where we're going to get ready soon to wrap up for the night. But Michael's got a good question. Who would be the ideal partner for Jackson Edward in Providence?
First of all, because Chris wouldn't let me get a word in there. Also, if you're on YouTube, give us a like and please subscribe.
Thank you.
Okay. Interesting question. Okay. If he's going to continue to play the right side, let's remember he's a left shot who played almost entirely on the right side last season with the London Knights. And he played on the right side against Philadelphia in the exhibition game. And I believe throughout development camp, Chris, he was on the right side.
Yes, he was.
Okay. If they're going to keep him on the right side, I would like to continue seeing him with Frederic Bruin. I think their styles go together well. If they want him on the left side, I would like to see him with Alec Regula.
Okay.
Similar type defenseman. Regula's got some experience, can help him along.
Now, long term, where would you like to see Jackson Edward developed as? I like the versatility where he could play both sides. Do you think he has it in him to naturally be able to go back to the left and they should continue to get him work on the right side? Or
He himself says he's more comfortable on the right now than he is on the left.
okay.
In watching him, the first maybe 15 games last season were rough for him on the right side. Defensively, that's when he was better offensively. But he adjusted to it, and he got better as the season progressed. And when he did have to take a shift on the left side, I have to say he looked better on the right than he did on the left. When you have that much repetitiveness, it becomes second nature to you. And I think that's what's happened to him. It's not like he was going back and forth regularly. He would get a game on the right side, and the next game he might take one or two shifts on the left side. So even he himself says he's more comfortable on the right now than he is on the left.
So leave him there then?
I would.
That's fair. No, there's no need to make the player uncomfortable in that regard. So apparently, I had to update the question. The question is correct now. Right now, we have 80% people saying no. Cam Neely does not need to shave.
Okay.
So hopefully, we get a few more votes before the show ends over here. But we touched on the cuts, the press conference, Swayman. I mean, do you have anything else, Dom? Have we forgotten anything?
Probably. We're probably missing something out of the press conference that I wanted to bring up, but I can't remember.
I mean, Montgomery, they mentioned that their contract talks are still there.
Oh, yeah. There you go. See, you reminded me. So Don Sweeney admitted to having contract negotiation talks with Trent Frederick's agent, Morgan Geeky's agent, and Brad Marchand's camp.
Yes, that was the other one that you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, so a lot of people are probably happy to hear that they're negotiating with Frederick before the season starts, because if he has an even better year than last year, it's going to cost them more money. Some people are not too happy that they're negotiating with Morgan Geeky, but Morgan Geeky is a fine third line right wing. I don't know why we would complain about that. Yeah, he might be out of his realm if he's playing second line or centering Pasternak and Zaka in case of an injury. I'll give you that much, but I don't think that that's why they want to re-sign him. I think, third line right wing, he's comfortable there. He's good there. He's good there with Trent Frederick and Matthew Patra. So I think that's the goal with them. But I'm worried if they don't get something done with before the end of the season, that it's going to be costing them more next summer.
Yeah, I think Frederick is a sneaky case for a guy who could hit 30 this year. Or at least, last year, I want to say he was solidly right around 40 points. And he's someone who, under the right circumstances, should see more action in the offensive zone and see some more, possibly see him on a power play unit at some point. So, I really do think we could see him in that 45 to 50 point range this year. just based off of some of the other players that are around him, especially if he gets a full season next to Poitras.
Poitras and Frederick.
Yeah,
Let's not take anything away from Frederick.
No, Freddie is the one I'm talking about. I think Freddie's the one who could easily get to the 50-point mark.
Yeah. So, sorry, I thought you were talking about Geeky.
No, Geeky I do think can shift over to the center, and that's some versatility there. He's not a long-term solution at center, but if there's an injury to someone, he can help get you through the game there.
Yeah, so I mean, really, I mean, you got Johnny Beecher too, who's up at the end of the season. Mark
RFA,
Kastelic is an RFA, and so is Mason Lohrei. So, you got Beecher, you got Lohrei. I'm interested to see what Lohrei's contract comes in at after the season that I think he's going to have this year. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I wonder if that has any play into the number they're trying to keep Swayman at, looking ahead to next year, knowing that they have to have Lohrei on a new deal, knowing that Beecher needs a new deal. Obviously,
Well, let me stop you worrying there and raising a hypothetical. They have almost $30 million in cap space next year, minus what Swayman signs for. So let's say Swayman gets his $8 million. Do you think $22 million is not enough for Mason Lohrei, John Beecher, Morgan Geeky, Trent Frederick, and Brad Marchand?
It absolutely should be. It absolutely
exactly.
Not to mention, one thing you haven't mentioned is the cap is going up again.
No, I'm including that.
Oh, you are including that. Okay.
I'm including that. I always include my cap projections. And I'm usually, when I do my math, I bring it in under what I project the cap to be at. So, yeah, Bruins are fine. Don't worry about cap for next year, unless Swayman comes in at $10 million per. Pardon me?
So, but what about Justin Brazeau? He's going to be an unrestricted free agent.
What about him?
I don't know. He's not going to take up that much.
No.
The what about it from Twitter. David also asks or mentions, does Geeky look quicker to you this year?
Yes.
I thought so. David asks, any ex-Bruin from last season would you like to see do well, i.e. Forbert, Boquist, DeBrusk, Heinen, Lauko, Swayman, ... Swayman. Swayman, because I think he will be a Bruin. But
no, forget Swayman. I'm not even going to go there. I would like to see Danton Heinen do well.
He was my second one on the list. My first one is Jake DeBrusk. I know he got a lot of shit around here for not living up to what people thought he should have. He's got a shit ton of talent around him over in Vancouver. I'm with Michael. I think he can easily hit 35 this year. Potential. He has that potential. I think he played through a lot of injuries in Boston, and he's healthy again. Again, he's been next to Elias Pettersson, so I'd love to see him light it up over in Vancouver. Like that's a talented team, and they're going to need a little bit of a lift, especially if Thatcher Demko is not 100%. So, but I can't hate the Heinen pick with him in Vancouver. So,
yeah. I just go back to Heinen as a rookie in Boston. A friend of mine who's very well connected throughout the NHL, knows a lot of the general managers. A couple of them commented to him about Danton Heinen saying, "Where were my scouts when this guy should have been looked at?" Referring to Heinen, something to that effect. And it's, he's had some trouble since then, ever since the Bruins traded him. So I'd like to see him get back to where he could be.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's definitely someone, again, in the depth of that Vancouver lineup. As Michael says, Vancouver got two really smart hockey players.
Mm-hmm.
They got really talented players, too. I think Danton Heinen is going to really help elevate the team on the bottom six as well. And he'll provide the same versatility for them that he did for us, being able to jump into the top six. He can skate with the best in the league. He can skate with them. And that's the thing. He may not have the scoring touch to constantly be a top six forward, but if you need to fill a hole in that lineup, he can do it in the short term, and he won't lose you games. That is the key thing with Danton Heinen. He will not lose them games.
Exactly.
But we are approaching 8:00. I'm trying to think if there was anything else from the press conference that we haven't touched on. Other than really the Jim Montgomery contract extension part. But I mean, again, as Don Sweeney alluded to, it's, there's a common goal there that they're working to bridge the gap on, and they'll continue to do that. That's the only update there could be on that right now. Do you think Don Sweeney will hold off on a Montgomery extension until after things are sorted out with Swayman?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I think he would like to. I think his priority is to get Swayman done more than anything else. And it sounds like he's going to have his work cut out for him now.
Yeah, I mean I
don't know.
His plate.
Yeah, it's got to be number one on his plate.
Do you think that optics has anything to do with it? Like, how do you think the fan base would react if all of a sudden on Thursday they announced a 2-year contract extension for Jim Montgomery? We know the fan reaction on Twitter is going to be great. Now do Swayman, because they cut.
No, I think I don't think it'll be now do Swayman. It'll be, why isn't Swayman done first?
Exactly. So do you think those optics play into a part of it, or do you? Because I feel like the coaching contract might be a little easier to get done. So
I don't know. I don't know that it'll be easier. I think Montgomery, knowing that Sacco is now an associate coach and Jay Leach is there, he's going to want some security. He's going to want more than a 2-year contract.
I would think so.
So I don't think it's as easy as people make it out to be.
I gotta say, Matrix says, I am fucking done Twittering for the night. People have gone batshit freaking crazy on there. First of all, your mistake was thinking they already hadn't gone batshit crazy on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what Twitter is. It started.
Well, no, it's not. Twitter's actually great. It depends on who you follow.
That's true.
And ignore your notifications.
Yeah, very, very true.
I can't remember the last time I read a notification. Sometimes I get on there and I see like I got 800 notifications and I just clear it. I don't even look at them.
I will say I just happened to flip over and it is all what ifs, and thoughts on the statement put out by Louis Gross, and like you said,
folks of you that are still watching, I say that I don't care about it, and Chris reads them to me anyway.
I'm just letting you know what they are. Trust me.
I
Some of
don't.
them
I don't want to know. That's just it. I don't want to know. I don't care.
David says Corpusalo kicks ass this year. Give him Swayman job and 8x8.
Yeah.
Luckily, Corpusalo already has the contract.
Thanks, Kevin. Good night.
Yeah, Kevin, we're wrapping up here too, so appreciate you jumping in. Matrix says the buffoonery is mind-boggling, absolutely. And Dom, I will say, at least up there, and maybe you get them, maybe you don't, but there are so much added in Twitter political things that it just makes it annoying. Tyler does point out that Friedman is one of the few worth getting mentions for. You know who else is? Dom Tiano. I highly recommend that one.
No.
So with that, though, it is just about 8 o'clock. And as Kevin said, it is about time to head out. Dom, do you have any other thoughts, questions, anything else before we head out for the evening here?
I just want to say to the Canadian viewers, today is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. If you haven't already, before you go to bed tonight, give a thought to the Indigenous kids we tragically lost over the years, and a special thought for those that actually survived. And I don't know if you have a day like that in the States, but for those of you that are from Canada, before you go to bed tonight, give them a thought.
We do have an Indigenous Peoples Day here in the States. I don't remember the exact date on the calendar off the top of my head, but I did have an extra thought before you went on that comment. So boy, do I feel like an ass bringing it back to the Bruins now. But with almost 600 folks watching, I did bring it over. I have a wonderful donation for our first Patreon giveaway when the season gets going. It is one of the B Bruin jerseys of Brad Marchand.
Oh, cool.
This was donated to me a while ago. I will let you all know that it is, if I can find the size. I can't find the size on it at the moment, but oh wait, still got the tag on it, by the way. Let me see if that has it. Doesn't have the price tag. I think it's just a regular large, but it was donated to What's Bruin from my good friend John Hendren over at Hat-Trick Hobbies. He does a fantastic job with collectibles, sports cards, mostly hockey. I've known him for quite some time, and he was nice enough to donate to this. He actually donated it a while ago, and now I finally have a way of doing a giveaway. So check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/whatsbruin. There are a number of different tiers, and more than one of them will get you qualified to win that jersey. We will discuss and announce on our next show when the drawing will be for that jersey. So go check us out. You get more content from us and a lot more. So with that, Dom, again, I can't echo your sentiments enough as well. We are at 8 o'clock now. So with that, everybody else is already signing off in the comments. So all I got is